the Steelers, they're finally here. And yesterday, I think they dropped a little bit of something here and there. And I think there were two things that really stuck out. I mean, the first one is obviously the offensive line, the position that everybody keeps talking about, the position that everybody expects the Steelers to target in round 2. And then the second one is their draft board and how they go about it. And I think it's really important for everybody to kind of understand exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers do when they are sculpting their draft board and how they go about just filling out that first round and understanding where they stand going into Thursday night. Let's start with the center. We have talked endlessly about the Pittsburgh Steelers adding a center in the 2024 NFL draft. And it started with Jackson Powers Johnson. It went to Zach Frazier. It's ending maybe with Graham Barton. And there are everything under the sun when it comes to the center position in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Meanwhile, every single time you ask about it, every single time both Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan address the situation, they talk about position flexibility and how they have guys who they feel comfortable with because of their position flexibility. Yesterday, they said it again. Omar, real quick, short answer. Well, we have guys that we feel comfortable with in that position just in case, and, we feel good about where we stand there. Let me ask you this question before I give my thoughts. You hear that for maybe the 5th or 6th time this offseason. How many more times do they have to say it before maybe your brain starts to think maybe they really do like James Daniels and Nate Herbig and maybe Spencer Anderson as their center options in 2024?
It would have to be my ringtone on my phone for me to actually believe it and hear it that many times. I don't believe them for a second. Now, maybe Nate Herbig as a backup center, but at the same time, I think they've talked endlessly about how they like to do smoke screens. I mean, Mike Tomlin said it yesterday. Sometimes I just talk to people to mess with y'all. And yeah, he does. And we all know that. But the continued, well, we like James Daniels, who has been very good for them at right guard. And they also say they like Nate Herbig. And it's like, really, we all know that this is one of the better center classes that we've seen in the NFL draft for a couple of years. And you have none on the roster whatsoever. So yeah, you can like those guys, and it's probably just to lead up to the fact that they're going to draft somebody and they're not going to give them the starting role right away. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that's going to take away from them drafting a center probably Thursday night, or if not Friday night.
Yeah, look at I want to say I agree. I just think that after yesterday, with how quick and assertive the Steelers' answer was, my brain immediately went, maybe they're really going to do it. Maybe they're really going to look at it and just say, like, James Daniels, our center. And I'll say this to the argument of James Daniels at center. James Daniels is a natural center. If you were starting his NFL career over, you start that guy at center and you let him just develop into a center throughout his NFL career. That's where he plays his best football. That being said, I wouldn't touch him now. I wouldn't move him now. I think at some point the Steelers have to just look at the situation and say, the more we move offensive linemen around, the less they work out. So maybe we should stop doing it. I think that with the options you have in this draft, I don't know how you don't go with the center. I'll also say that, at this point in the draft, there are only 2 people, I believe, who really understand where the Steelers are going to go with their first round pick. And those 2 people are Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan, maybe 3 with Art Rooney. And those 3 aren't going to say a word to anybody. But there are a lot of people, a lot of sources out there who will tell you that they firmly believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go with an offensive lineman in round 1. And that's every time I talk to anybody who I rely on for information, their answer is, I'm almost positive it's going to be a center or an offensive tackle with the 20th pick. It just kind of depends on how the board falls, I believe. But I don't know. There's a part of me that's starting to think like maybe, and maybe the smokescreen is right. Maybe you're dead on there. Maybe this is the Kenny Pickett effect. This is maybe that's what they like to do. Maybe that's Mike Tomlin's new thing, is he's just like, I'm just going to avoid everybody and you're not going to have any understanding. And then boom, we're going to draft a center, or we're going to draft Kenny Pickett. Or, I mean, you could go as far back as Juju Smith-Schuster. They did nothing with that guy and then selected him in the 2nd round. They do that quite a bit. So I don't know. As it comes to, who they select, if you're selecting somebody outside of those top 3, I don't think they're a starter in 2024. So maybe that's what they mean. is they're leaving the door open for a later round option. But I think if it's the first round and one of those guys are there, I still have a hard time believing that they're not going to go center with pick number 20.